Everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of Boon Joon-ho's brand new science fiction dark comedy, Mickey 17, which stars Robert Pattinson, Naomi Ackie, Stephen Young, Toni Collette, and Mark Ruffalo. And this film is set in the future, and it follows a man who signs up as an expendable in space, a disposable worker who gets cloned after he dies. This film was highly anticipated by many, me included. I've become a huge fan of Robert Pattinson, and this is pre the Batman. I've really grown to love his work. You know, him separating himself from the Twilight era, where he was this sparkling vampire, and most of the people who was associated with that film franchise has kind of uh, been stuck, just to say it plainly. But he has really branched out and done different things throughout his career, including the Batman, and he did an excellent job in that cinematic version of the Cape Crusader. But in this go around, we're getting him in a dark comedy, and this is somewhat of a different role. It is weird to say that with Robert Pattinson because every film he's in is different. You know, he never does the same thing twice. He doesn't repeat himself, and that's why I've grown to respect him as an actor. He doesn't allow himself to get typecast. You know, he bounces from film to film, whether it's Tenet or the Batman or Mickey 17 or Good Time or The Lighthouse. He just goes and tackle these films that you wouldn't normally see A-list actor just jump into. He really focuses on these independent level roles, but not independent in the sense that the film was made for $5 million or something like that, but just the material itself. And Mickey 17 in his core is somewhat of an independent type of film. You know, this is not what you consider a big studio film with Warner Brothers being behind Mickey 17. This is coming from Bong Joon-ho, who previously gave us the Academy Award winning Parasite. And so this falls in his little filmography, his little universe. And Bong Joon-ho also being the director of Snowpiercer, which was an excellent movie, which had some heavy commentary, as well as Parasite. And Mickey 17 does not disappoint. He does a very good job of having this social commentary wrapped up in this science fiction comedy. And at times it doesn't really hit, you know, but when it does hit, it hits with a sledgehammer. I really did enjoy Mickey 17. Was it perfect? No. It did let me down on a couple of things, but for the most part, I walked away from this film satisfied. You know, I like, okay, that was fine. It was decent. I wanted more. I did want more from it as far as science fiction level of it all, but it fits. It fits the tone that we know from Bong Joon-ho, who, like I said, gave us Snowpiercer. Snowpiercer wasn't this epic science fiction action film. It was just a very contained story on this train and had science fiction elements. This film, just like Snowpiercer, was set in a science fiction world. We're in outer space. We're on a spaceship. We're on a different planet, but it was contained. It was very disciplined in its storytelling in that sense, to whereas the story never got out of hand. You know what I'm saying? We didn't go to a different galaxy. We're telling this story here, telling this story here. We really stuck with Robert Pattinson's character of Mickey throughout this film and what he was experiencing, what he was going through, and that's what you signed up for. It's a movie called Mickey 17. You want to follow the character of Mickey. My positives of this film, is of course number one, Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson. I mean, I think this was probably my most enjoyable time watching Robert Pattinson on the big screen. All the Batman aside, which I feel he did arguably the best rendition of Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, on the big screen. But I really loved his performance here because he plays all these characters. He plays all 17. Now, we don't see all 17 versions or iterations of Mickey Barnes in this film, but we do get to see two of these quote unquote expendables together for a majority of this film. And for the first time in a long time that I can remember, I really didn't have a tough time separating the two. I knew who Mickey 17 was and I knew who Mickey 18 was. And they both looked alike. They didn't change their hair, they didn't change their wardrobe or nothing. They were literal clones of one another, but with the fine either writing or acting or a combination of both, you were able to distinguish who was who. And that wouldn't have worked without this great performance by Robert Pattinson with his facial expressions. You could tell by little nuances that he was doing. Just a little slouch of one character, have his head kind of ducked off in his shoulders a little bit, kind of slumped over, not slumped over like a hunchback or nothing, but just this little geeky posture that he has, as opposed to the other one who was standing up straight like a lowercase L. You can tell which one was which, and I appreciated that. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed how each character had a different personality. Even though they were the same person, and it was the only thing I didn't like about it. I would have loved to have seen. It didn't have to be all 17, or in this case 18 versions of Mickey, that we saw 18 different personalities, but I would like to have seen more, maybe two or three more, to see these distinct personalities from this one person play out in these different versions of themselves, but they never supposed to meet up, but you still could have shown the way, but that's just in my mind working. But I just wanted to see more. I wanted to see more of Robert Pattinson play around with different kind of personalities throughout. But it was just those two. Now, they did have a throwaway line where Robert Pattinson makes the statement that, Mickey 5 was this way or Mickey 7 was this way, but we never got to see it. I would have loved to have seen it, but overall, Robert Pattinson, excellent job by him. Stephen Young was in this film, and I enjoyed him, his character, kind of one note, but I did like seeing him in the film. It really was unneeded, to be 100% honest with you. I just love Stephen Yen. I just wanted to we in this kind of Renaissance right now. We've seen a lot of Stephen Yen. You don't know who Stephen Yen is, get from under a rock. You may know him from The Walking Dead. He was Glenn from Invincible. He does voiceover on Invincible. The TV show from a couple of years ago, Beef, that was on Netflix. Excellent job. He was in not Get Out, but Nope, that other Jordan Peele film. But he's popped up in a lot, and he was going to be in Thunderbolts, if I'm not mistaken. The reason he couldn't be in Thunderbolts, the new Marvel film that's coming out in a couple of months, was because of this film, if I'm not mistaken. He chose to do this film as opposed to Thunderbolts. And the reason I bring all that up, because he was supposed to play Sentry in Thunderbolts, which is a big role, a big character in the Marvel universe. And if he chose this film over that, it makes you scratch your head, because this wasn't a big role. Now, I did read somewhere that this film was supposed to be longer. This movie is 2 hours, I think 2.5 hours almost. It's a longer version of this movie, and I'm gonna get to the runtime in a little while. But out of this shorter version that they released, I think a lot of his role was cut out. So it is a reason there because what we see on screen now, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I would have chose the Marvel film, but that's just me. I mean, like I said, he did a good job. I did enjoy him in the film, nonetheless. Tony Collette and Mark Ruffalo in this movie, as much as I enjoyed them, as funny as they were, as disturbing as they were at times, it felt like they were in different movies. It felt like, especially Mark Ruffalo, it felt like he was in a different movie. And it was a little uneven with his performance. And Mark Ruffalo is an excellent actor. This isn't there. I don't accept no Mark Ruffalo shade over here. I think he's one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood. Yeah, but I don't know what he was doing with this role. I don't know. It was like it was two versions. We got two versions of Mickey on screen. It was like he was trying to up the ante and do two versions of the same person in the same body, I should say. In the scene, and I'm like, what is this? I don't know what this flip flopping thing is. But he was funny. He was funny. Robert Pattinson. Let me transition into the comedy aspect of it. The movie is funny, and it's funnier than what I thought it was going to be. Granted, I wasn't expecting a super serious film. We got the comedy elements in the trailer and whatnot, so I knew it was going to be some jokes in here, but it was really funny. But it wasn't silly. It wasn't goofy screwball comedy. It was just comedy. The jokes where it landed. These jokes really did land with me, and I had a good time with it. Enjoyable time. Now, when it got dark, it got dark. It has a lot of dark elements in it, which is a perfect transition into the real meat of this story, and that is basically this film is a story about colonization, and in epic Boon Joon-ho's non-subtle way of expressing social commentary in his films, it was beaten over the head like a drum. This is probably the most preachy of his social commentary films. This was very preachy. Me personally, I didn't mind it. I actually loved the story. The execution wasn't perfect, but I loved the story. And the reason I say the execution wasn't perfect, that goes back to the comedy aspect of it. It didn't take it too serious. They didn't take the colonization storyline super serious as it is serious, because the story they were telling is a real reflection of what's going on now in the world. This isn't like telling a history. You think back in history, which you can, this it's nothing new, but it's happening now. And I think they should have, and granted, when they were writing this film and pre-production and going into production, I'm pretty sure 47 wasn't in office at the time, so they didn't know. But this is so poignant right now. The story that they're telling, I wish they would have kind of dove into it a little more seriously, but that's just a personal preference on my half. But I can see where a lot of people would probably come off and be like, man, this is really preachy. And trust me, I don't like preachy movies. I can't stand preachy movies. It's a chore to watch movies like that. But this wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. Other elements of the film that I didn't too much care for, it kind of drug. Like I said before, this movie was 2.5 hours long. I feel they could have cut it, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes from it and got a tighter story and still held on to the integrity of the story you was trying to tell. It's some scenes in here, like especially towards the end. It wasn't even in the middle. Towards the end, where it was like, okay, okay, the end of the film itself, it's like it ended three times. I'm like, oh my god, this movie has more endings than Return of the King, the Lord of the the Lord of the Rings movies. But it was just a lot happening at the end that, in some sense, wasn't necessary at parts. So I was kind of thrown off by that. There was parts in the middle where I was kind of, I don't know. I was ready to rest my eyes for a minute because I felt like we're not going nowhere no time soon with this story. We're not really moving it along like I want to, but it's all good. I did enjoy it. It wasn't a dumpster fire. Like, I read some reports, some reviews, I should say. Some reviews on it are just tearing this movie apart, and I didn't see where it was that bad. I thought it was entertaining. I did. I honestly feel that this movie is a victim of timing. This film uh is coming out in a time where people are just in their feelings. We are not we, but a majority of people are so sensitive lately that if you say anything that doesn't, agree with their sensibilities, is automatically, oh, it sucked. Well, I ain't gonna say all that. I've seen movies that are 100% against what I believe or what I stand for, but it's still a good movie. I can still say it's a good movie. I just don't like the story they were telling, But people these days, if it's not a part of their agenda, it sucks. And I know that this movie is super preachy with the story that they're telling, if you can read into it. Now, it took me a minute to get the point. I never proclaimed to be the smartest, smartest in the class or the sharpest knife in the drawer. But normally when a film is telling a message, I can grasp it. It took me a minute to figure out what story are they telling here, and I was looking for it, maybe because I knew that Boon Joon-ho is making this movie, and I know how he gets down. So I was looking for that social commentary so hard that I was looking past it. And when it did click, I was like, okay, I can see where he's going here. But it took a minute to get there. But for me, I know a lot of people probably picked it up in the trailer before they even went and saw the movie. Like I said, I'm not a super genius. I only played one on TV. But ultimately, I did enjoy Mickey 17, which gets a letter grade of a C plus. Yeah, it was good. It was really good. I did enjoy it, and I doubly enjoyed Robert Pattinson. If anything, to go see this movie, if you need a reason to go see this movie, go for Robert Pattinson's performance. I really, really enjoyed his performance in this movie. This was really good. Really, really good. And I shouldn't be shocked. I know it's coming off as shocked. I shouldn't be, but I am. I don't know why. The dude just impressed me every time he steps in front of a camera. And kudos to him. I would like to know, what did you think of Mickey 17? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for this show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. You can also let me know by commenting on the video on YouTube. Just subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel. Comment and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Concession Stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Mickey 17 starring Robert Pattinson. Want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.